So, this is our typical leadership journey, and as you can see, it's not exactly linear or straight. And it starts with campus to corporate, and we sometimes call it back to briefcase, don't we? And it's about how you come from college, university, school, and it's your first proper job, and you're like, yay, I'm earning money. So, for example, I did some work for Richard last week in Dublin, graduate development, and what I found was that on the last day they all got paid, and they were just ridiculous for 20 minutes because it was the first time that any of them had seen that much money on a pay sheet. They were so excited. It was like, I've been paid. 21 years old, got money. So campus to corporate is very much the yay moment. That's at the very beginning. The only person that you're leading at that point is yourself. And actually, leadership always starts with yourself. When anybody talks about I lead other people, yes, you do, but you start with yourself. So it's all about what you learn, how you position yourself, how you present yourself as a newbie, being reliable, robust, understandable, and learning as fast as possible. The second stage is honeymoon. That's at the point where the person has some learning underneath their belt. They've got used to it. They know where the toilets are. They know how things work. They know who to talk to. And they might even start leading a project, leading some information, presenting, and that's a honeymoon period because it's very exciting. You feel great because you're no longer a newbie, you're not the graduate who's only been there 5 minutes. You know lots of stuff, and it is a wonderful thing. There's only one snag about the honeymoon period, isn't there? What is it? A bit of a snag about it? It does not last, it finishes. And sometimes that's when we lose people, and particularly nowadays in the leadership space in many organisations is when they jump ship, and we don't want them to, and the work that we do is around reducing attrition and expanding retention. Because the thing is, you'll go to another organisation and do the yay and do the honeymoon and still get to the point where the honeymoon wears off. So it happens in every company. The next one is lost at sea. This is pretty sad because often the individual leader has perhaps got a direct report, maybe even managing a small team, and they're doing their job really well and they're working really hard, but actually the fun has gone out of it. And that can be for a number of reasons. It can be because the organisation has changed, because organisations change very fast. It can be because they're feeling that their career is starting to stall. It can be they feel they're not learning enough. Whatever it is, that lost at sea, although they're in theory going up the ladder, how they're feeling is going down. And if we don't deal with that, that can eventually lead to what we call the dip. What often happens though is that if they're supported through that lost at sea phase, is this all there is? Can I do better with development? Then they'll move on to aspiration. I can do better, and really push themselves forward. And that's the point at which they may have larger teams, and they may even be running a business unit, a large number of projects, and things are going well. But if we don't deal with those two elements well, lost at sea and aspiration, we get the dip. We get derailment, where people feel that they no longer are on track, or worse still, we get a brick wall where they stall completely. Now, derailment is usually based on weaknesses. And the weakness is in all of us. So if you think about yourself now and all of the skills that you've got, all of the achievements, you know, and you don't have to say it out loud, but you know what you're good at, right? And you know some of the things that are not quite so good. And you get into a job and it doesn't notice. You can do lots of things and be a bit weak at something. But at the point where you might derail, that's the point where you get quite high up in your leadership, and suddenly those weaknesses matter and suddenly they show. If you're able to deal with those weaknesses, that's great. If you're not, that will derail you. Another thing that derails is when the organisation changes hands. So mergers, acquisitions, IPOs, all those sorts of things change the organisation quite considerably, and that too can make people feel derailed, because the thing I grew up with that was a startup and it was so exciting and I loved it is no longer the thing. And one of the biggest problems in the space where we work, tech and fintech, is exactly that you can't keep it at the startup phase. You can't. You get bigger. So one of the organisations that we've worked with for about 5 years, Criteo, French company, 2 years ago there were 1,000 people. Next year there'll be 2,500 people globally. Can you imagine? That just changes the animal out of all proportion. So often people derail, and if we don't deal with them and support them, they'll brick wall. So it'll be that I can't go any further in this organisation, I have to jump ship. But if we manage to get them through that, we get mastery. So what we try to do is we make an effort to smooth out that journey, because it isn't really linear and it isn't really smooth, so that at every stage where somebody feels they are on their leadership journey, they're supported. So where do you think you are? Have a look at page 2. Some of you may have completed this before, in which case you don't have to complete it again unless you want.